Okay, so good afternoon. I'm Amy Bach, and I'm the Executive Director of United Policyholders. Can I have a show of hands for anybody who came to the program that we gave, Insurance 101 in San Bruno in November? Anybody? Couple people. Okay. Well, this workshop and the next three are intended to give you some guidance on the issues that you are dealing with in the aftermath of the explosion and fire. And we recognize that people have different situations, different amounts of and kinds of damage, and that many of you are at different stages in the process. So we put together panels of experts who hopefully will be able to address pretty much anything that has come up so far for you related to your personal property and contents, your repairs, rebuilding, and we are at in the last workshop we will have a CPA and a realtor and somebody from PG&E who will be able to answer questions about both the concept of using your insurance money to not rebuild, but instead to buy a replacement home, as well as the concept of participating in PG&E's Value Assurance Program. So we will have those experts in the 4 o'clock panel. We're going to be giving you 15-minute breaks between each one. We don't expect you to stay for all 4. I want to thank, again, San Bruno Cable for coming and filming. And that way, if you do have to leave, you may be able to watch it at a future date. Just like we rebroadcast the insurance program. Carrie, is there a way that people can watch that?
Yes, it's up on YouTube, and Miriam is at 3 San Bruno Cable. We also have a link on our website.
Okay.
I think through the city website, City of San Bruno.
Okay. So there's way too many people to thank than we have time for here. I definitely, I do want to thank the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. There's a representative here from the foundation, Ellen Clear, in the back there, and she's been coming to many events, and they really have their heart in your community. And my staff, I've got Paige Labradette here, and Kay Coates, who's going to be a presenter, and then Emily Cabral, who's at the table inside. And then the team at Rebuilding Together has just been great and a pleasure to work with and a great resource for your community. So very briefly, the disclaimer in fine print. The information presented in the following workshops is intended for general educational purposes and should not be construed as legal advice. The volunteer speakers are donating their time as a public service to the San Bruno community. Both United Policyholders and Rebuilding Together are 501c3 organizations. We're nonprofits, and we are doing this as a public service. And I very much want to thank our speakers, two of whom traveled actually a pretty long distance to be here. So without further ado, our first workshop is going to be on inventorying and valuing contents. And that is all the items in your home that may have been damaged or destroyed as a result of the event in September. And our first presenter is going to be Kay, who is actually, she and her family lost their home in a wildfire in 2003 in San Diego. And then after a number of years, she joined our staff. And she is working in San Diego doing preparedness outreach and education and helping people take the steps that will make them a little better prepared in the event that that their home suffers a loss. So Kay is very up to speed on the inventory. She's going to just briefly go through a tool that we give away free of charge to disaster survivors. And we've been giving them out, again, with help from the foundation, a grant. We've been giving these away in your community since September, and if any of you want one and don't have one, we have some here, and you can come up at the end of this workshop and take one. So Kay is going to walk you through how you use this little doohickey, and then I will introduce our second speaker.
Good morning. I guess we are in afternoon. I'm still in morning, though. So Sorry that you guys are having to go through this. However, it does get better. And inventorying is not something that you should think like, okay, I'm going to fill this out and be done. You'll keep remembering things. You'll keep wanting to write them down. You may have already started a list. You may have something done electronically already. All is great. Don't worry that you have one thing and then we're here giving you a tool and like, oh my gosh, how do I transfer? I can give you some ideas. I'm going to show you what we have on our worksheet. It's very extensive. It could be a little daunting, but on the flip side, it basically will help trigger your minds of some of the things. And it's hard going through losses because it brings up a lot of emotions. However, if you can kind of step back every now and then and realize that I need to record these things because this is how I'm going to restart. And this is, and it's not, you want to be able to hopefully get maximum from your insurance company so you can get back to where you were before. It does not alleviate, obviously, some of the emotional tie when you're doing your contents. But once again, gets you back down to let's make sure we can get this recorded and then we can move on. And that's the moving on is really a nice, fresh thing to do. And once you get this part behind you, you'll be moving forward. And it's a lot, it does get a lot easier. So anyway, can you pull up that spreadsheet? You know how to do that? Okay, open the window with UP Home Inventory. You could just put, you could put end show for a second if you want. We'll come back to that. And then just minimize that. Or just pull up. That's okay. Okay. When we deal with different computers and different savvy ways to get around. Okay. I know this is kind of hard to read. Let's see. Where are we? Okay. I don't know how much of this you can read or not, but I'm just going to give you an idea. We have this in an Excel spreadsheet, and it's already pre-filled in. But of course, that's not going to necessarily match your home. But what the idea is you are going to see different rooms that everyone, of course, has. There are things on the spreadsheet that you have, and there will be things on your spreadsheet that you didn't have. That's all fine. Once again, I don't want it to be daunting. I picked an easy room. We are on the living room, family room. Could you pull the spreadsheet down? It's on, see, I have that, the top part is the titles. And I want to get down so you can see an entire, like from the very top. So like, there you go. Keep going.
Going all the way up? How's that?
That's good. We need to get column A in. If we can get that over. We're missing column. Okay. All right. So this is what you're going to see on the spreadsheet. You're going to have a description of the property, whatever it might be, books, cassette players, things that we have in our home. We've got them categorized. This is just to help get around. If you're familiar with the spreadsheet, Excel's got plenty of help out there, but you can sort it so you can see, I just want to do electronics or whatever area. And like I said, it may not have everything that you want. You can type over something that's not there. At the very bottom of the spreadsheet, there is room to add pieces that you do or don't have. There is a tab, FAQ, frequently asked questions. It will help you do some of the things if you want to make it more personal than just using what's there. I've tried to give it enough room that you can make it personal without getting any real detail on the spreadsheet.
So this is available to all of us?
This is available to you. It's on these little flash drives that we will give out to you. And this also has a lot of recovery information that will help get you around. So you can take this home and, like I said, you can take what you have and stick it in. You can keep them separately and just add on. All those are great tools for inventorying. So then it's got type, it's got what room, just so we could keep things kind of separate. You'll see all these different tabs on the bottom: kitchen, bedroom, bath, dining room. You can click on one of those if you want to, and just take you to a same type of thing, but what property you might find in that room. You're going to have year purchased. You guys, some of that you will know, some of it you won't, but it will help with your claims process. You also have quantity. Let's say you had 3 TVs. If you don't need to keep them separately, you can put quantity in there. basic cost that it basically will cost for, we want to put them, what it's valued at, or is it?
I think Allison will be talking about that.
Okay, she'll be discussing that. Okay, but you got your cost, and then there's a way that Allison's going to get into a little more about how to do your depreciation and value of that. Is that correct? Okay. So this is just a tool, and like I said, we've tried to have it. It's pretty extensive in there. Don't get overwhelmed when you think, oh my gosh, it is hundreds of lines long. There's a lot of information in there, but it does not mean you have to use it all. Yes?
So this is just to collect the cost, what we estimate the cost would be of that problem, right at this point.
This is basically you're going to start by, did I have that or not? And then the costing is going to be discussed a little bit with Allison here about how to fill that out so you can use that towards your claim. So part of it's going to depend on your insurance company and what they're going to require from you. I know for myself that I did do some cost stuff, but my insurance company, when I finally got down to it, they just want to know what the heck I had. They didn't really want to know if how much. So it's a little bit of combination. They took it, and then they could run it through some of their programs. I had a total loss, and with that, and I had my insurance company did pretty well with us. They really just wanted us to settle. Of course, don't feel rushed into that too. It takes a long time. That's one thing that you want to make sure you include everything and get as much value out of your thing so you can get back to where you were before. Okay?
Thank you, Kay. And we are going to have a Q&A portion where you can ask all your questions at the end. And before I introduce Allison Hunt with the Greenspan Company, I want to take you back for 1 second to keep this in context. That as Kay mentioned, you're at probably different stages. Some of you may already be done with your inventory. Some of you may be working on a claim with PG&E. If some of you may be working on something with your insurance company, but it doesn't matter for what purpose you are doing it. You still need to document what your losses were from the event, so that whether it be for PG&E, for your insurance, or for tax purposes, that what matters is having this nice list with numbers attached to it, because you're going to get into negotiations and you're going to be wanting to settle, and you want to make sure that you're getting a fair settlement. And of course, it's important that you not claim things that you didn't have, because that's going to open up problems, and who needs that, right? So just because we give you this extensive list, that doesn't mean that you just go down and submit it. That means you have to make sure that you're just marking the items you actually had. So Allison Hunt is a contents claim specialist. She's a professional with a company called Greenspan AI, and they have offices around the state. She's out of their Sacramento office. And these days, a lot of insurance companies are breaking up the claim process they're giving you 2 adjusters to work with. Those of you who have total losses, red tag, you may be working with both a contents adjuster with your insurance company and then a dwelling claim adjuster. So Allison is just a contents specialist. So if you have had your home or your business damaged or destroyed, she would be your gal. If you feel like, I just cannot deal with this, which is a perfectly fine way to approach the situation. Not everybody has the time or the energy to do this themselves. In fact, a lot of people, when people ask me, I've been doing this for a very long time, well, if you had this happen, what would you do? I say, well, I'd probably hire a professional. I have little kids, and I just don't, and I work full-time, so I just don't have the time. It's a personal decision, and we're giving you the information. You heard from a do-it-yourself option, and now you're going to hear from a professional. Allison has been with the Greenspan Company for 7 years, and all she does all day long is work with people on inventorying and valuing their any damaged or destroyed personal property, and then negotiating with the insurance company, which is a whole nother ball of wax. It's one thing to list and put the numbers, it's another thing to start negotiating, because the concept of depreciation, meaning what's the reduced value of this item because of its age, is complicated. And I find it complicated, and I bet Allison finds it complicated after doing it for 7 years. Take it away, Allison. Thank you for coming.
Okay. Well, first off, let me thank you for coming here today.
It being a Sunday, I appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Microphone, please.
Yes. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come here to listen to us speak, to offer advice to you. So thank you for that. As she said, my name is Allison Hunt. I work with the Greenspan Company Adjusters International. We're a public adjusting firm who acts as a liaison between the policy holder and the policy issuer. As was stated, sometimes you might not have enough time to do losses yourself. You might not have time to compile the inventory. You might not know where do I start, what's considered contents, what's not contents, what can I claim, what can I not claim. So that's where we come in, and that's where we assist you and aid you in that. So what I want to talk about first is, what does doing an inventory mean? Doing an inventory means, and it's a contents inventory, it means to where you're going through your home, whether you're physically documenting or you're mentally making a list, that you're just writing down anything that pertains to contents. And then, so when you're in the house, and let's just say, for instance, your home is still standing, and you can physically go in and see. You want to be able to pick up, touch, and feel everything. You want to make a notation. If you have electronics, you want to be able to notate what model numbers are, what serial numbers are, photo document everything you can possibly photo document. The more pictures you have, the better it substantiates your claim that you've had the items. You want to be able to list any kind of brands that you have on clothing. You might have jeans, but are those jeans Lee jeans, or are those jeans True Religion jeans? So if you tell the insurance company you have 10 pair of jeans, but you don't state what type of jeans those are, then you might not be getting the fair replacement cost for those items. So the first thing is just to know that you had a loss. Where do you start with that loss? What's considered contents? What do I need to document? Where we come in is we physically get out into the field. We physically dig through the house. We physically shovel through any kind of debris to where we can see as much as we can possibly see. If there's a burnt out of sight, we call it BOS in our terms. We like to use acronyms in this business, so it's BOS, burnt out of sight. Then we'll sit down with you to do what's called a recreation, and that's just doing the mental list with you. And then what we'll do is we'll start on one wall, and this is something you can do too, because you know what you have in your home, but it's surprising to find out how many people actually don't realize what's in that junk drawer, or what's underneath the bed, or what have they had in the closet for the last 3 years. So we start around on one side of the wall, and then you want to go on one side, work your way around, and then you want to start on this, get into the center of the room, and then start pulling out the drawers mentally to figure out what you've had. And then what's considered contents and what's not considered contents. The way that you can look at that is, if you take the roof off of the house, you turn the house upside down, whatever falls out, that's going to be contents. If it's stuck to the house, then that should go to the building part of it. And then there are some other items to where, if you think about it, that, well, am I going to take those blinds with me when I move? And if that's a question, yes, then that can possibly be considered a contents item too. And then as far as talking about depreciation and how are my things going to be valued, you have to look at, where do you do your shopping? How do you shop? Do you shop at stores, Target, Walmart? Do you shop Macy's, Nordstrom's? Do you shop Bergdorf Goodman? So you have to look at how you do your shopping and where you do your shopping. You might have things that you purchased at a furniture store. Now that furniture store is no longer open for business. So what you'll have to do is find a store that's comparable to the store that you made the purchase at. You might even look at the brands that you purchased. Even though the store went out of business, those brands might be available someplace else that's going to be a comparable replacement for you. Now, what you'll run into in doing an inventory list on a pre-formatted form from the insurance company, they're going to want to know, how much did you pay for something? So you might have bought something 5 years ago for $200, say a DVD player or a TV for $200 5 years ago, but today that type of TV might cost, say, $350. So you're entitled to what that replacement cost is, not necessarily what you purchased it at. And then to figure out from there on the replacement cost, so your replacement cost for that said TV would be $350. The insurance company, and then we too, will take an item and we'll apply a depreciation percentage to that. That depreciation percentage might change from category. An electronic might depreciate differently than say a t-shirt. In the state of California, it is the rule and it's the law to depreciate your contents items based on the condition of the item, not the age. So you have that TV for 5 years, but it might have sat in your guest room and maybe watched 3 or 4 times a year. Insurance company will come on and do a depreciation based on that 5-year period, thinking that it's reaching its useful life, the end of its useful life, and might depreciate that, say, 75 to 95%. But based on the condition of the item, it might warrant it to be a 15, 20, 25% depreciation to where you'll get a $300 payout opposed to a $75 payout. Make sense?
How do you prove it, especially a lot of us who lost our homes, everything was incinerated and all we had was charcoal.
Yeah, well, nobody knows what they have in their home better than you, the homeowner. So the majority of it is just taking off of the value process, or the good process of you knowing what you had in your home. So what you can do too is you might find that friends, family have come over for Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthday parties. So you might seek that type of, solicit that type of help out with family members or friends to see if they have photos to help prove your loss. And then once you determine what the depreciated value is, which in the state of California, let me mind you, is based on condition, not age, okay? Once all of that is said and done, what you want to do is you're compiling your claim, you're making your list out, you're stating how many of these items you had, you're stating the brands, model numbers, if you know them, if they're applicable, you're stating what the replacement cost is, and then the depreciated value, which is also known as an actual cash value, or another acronym, ACV. Then you turn the claim into the insurance company because your claim is compiled, and then the insurance company then processes that claim. What I run into a lot is that people don't want to turn in their contents claim because they're constantly remembering things. You're probably in your temporary resident right now. If you've already submitted a contents claim or made your listing, you're probably in the kitchen pulling open a drawer, trying to grab that can opener that you no longer have, and it sparks your memory that I forgot about the can opener. So you're going to start a supplemental listing too. You've got your main claim, and then you're always going to have things that you're going to remember after the fact. Okay, so your claim's going to get processed. The insurance company is going to look at what you've submitted. They're going to do their own evaluation, in most cases, on the information you've given and provided, and they'll give you an actual cash value payment. And then at that point, you can go through a replacement receipt process, which is once you've bought that $350 TV, but they gave you $75, then that receipt proves that this is what I purchased it at, so please give me the other $275, $225, whatever the difference is, back to me, please. So there's many steps in the contents process, and it is very time-consuming, very tedious. And one thing about contents, opposed to the building, in a building and in a house, you've got studs, you have drywalls, you have roofing, but as contents, you have emotional attachment to everything. You have personally picked out these items. So please don't ever think that anything that you have is ever insignificant. I've worked with many clients that have said, Allie, no, don't count it, it's just not significant. And in doing so, we have found that listing those insignificant items can add up to $15,000 easy. Okay? And then one point I do want to make is that with any kind of loss that you have, if you do have photos, the more photos you have, the better. Photo document, photo document, photo document, because it substantiates your claim. And then what I'd also like to make a note of is your contents. You have no mortgage on your contents. You have no bank loans on your contents. You have full rights to that money immediately. So once you make your contents claim, you can hopefully expect a check in the mail pretty quick. On your building or your dwelling, you might have a mortgage on it, so that check's going to be made out to you. It's going to be made out to the mortgage company. With contents, get into your contents, do it immediately, do it while you remember it, so you can start earning interest on that money. Okay? Yes?
So when they cut you a check, because I know that the insurance company, they just, cut us a check for just a lump sum amount. When they are paying you, are they giving you this
They should, if an inventory listing was made and the insurance company has it, you should be in receipt of that inventory listing with that check. Now, a lot of times the insurance company will give you a cash advance for you to be able to go get up and started. So you're not gonna have any listing for that yet. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna keep your receipts so you can verify what you've purchased and match it up to the claim later. What you don't need to fall into the trap of is, let's just say you're a Nordstrom shopper, okay? Nordstrom is a pretty nice store. You can buy jeans there for $200, but you had a fire and you've lost your home. You have nothing. So you run into the local Walmart to pick you up some jeans to put on. That is not a replacement. So you don't want to get mixed up with, okay, what's replacement and what is additional living expense? And there's so many things within a policy that you really need to know about or ask your adjuster about or ask your content specialist about, because we want to make sure that those monies are applied, appropriately. Yes.
Say you're looking for a particular article online, whether it be, eBay, and trying to find a like comparison to find the dollar amount, and you just can't find it. Can you name off a couple of websites, or how can you kind of ballpark this, say, a piece of china?
I'll tell you a very nice website is shopping.com. You can go in there and you can search for just about anything. The Google search is really very nice too. Just Googling any kind of text will be able to pull you up to those particular items. You've got options to search by images. You've got options to search by web references. You've got options to search by shopping. So those are two very good websites. You did bring up a very good point about eBay though. So when you're valuing your item, and let's just say you have a very unique item, a collector's Mickey Mouse mug from 1950s, and they just don't have them anymore, right? So let's just say, for instance, you find that particular mug on eBay for $30. Since that is a value of a used value in cents, that item should not have any kind of depreciation applied to it because you are using a used source for that item. Yes, sir?
How do you put a value on family heirlooms and photographs?
It is really a priceless situation that you have there. But what you do is you try to get as much information as you can. You can look to see photo reprints typically cost you about 19 cents a photo. So if you had 300 photos in a photo book, you should be able to get compensating for those 300 photos at that 19 cents. Let's just say you have a professional portrait done, and that professional portrait costs you $250. You should still be able to get compensated for that. The heirlooms could be a little bit more difficult to value, but there are some sites out there, say GoAntiques.com, Ruby Lane, Ambiance Antiques, that can kind of help with things that are similar. Let's just say, for instance, you have a 1920s walnut dining table with two dividers, but you can't find the exact same thing. So what you want to do is try to find something comparable within the same era. Yes, sir?
How is collectibles and art, and collectibles like a stamp collection, or even more specific, like a silver certificate collection, how would that be valued? How would we go about valuing that?
What we would first want to do is find out exactly what you had. Sometimes you might find it necessary to bring in an art appraiser, furniture appraiser, an appraisal that can tell you exactly what all's entailed in it. The internet is just a big, vast knowledge of information or grouping of information to where you can really find just about anything you need to know on the internet. Sometimes it does require picking up the phone and calling the U.S. Mint to tell them that you have this and this is what you want them to tell you about, and if you don't have it anymore, what was it worth at the time and what is it worth at today. You also have many coin collectors out there and shops to where you just get on the phone and start calling them and telling them what you have.
Same with the stamp collection.
Same with the stamp collecting, yes.
Allison, could you touch on some limits that there may, because most of your policies may have inside of them some lists of certain items that have a special cap on how much the company will pay for those items.
Sure.
And very often coin collections and that are subject to those limits.
Sometimes, correct.
Sometimes.
Correct.
So, okay, but this is an area where you recommend a professional appraisal coming in handy?
It depends on the extent of the collection. If you just have, say, like 3 or 4 coin collections from the U.S. Mint, then I think that's something you might be able to value on your own. If you're starting to get into different types of currencies that date back to the 1800s, 1700s, that type of stuff, then I would recommend bringing somebody in to do that. In talking about sublimits, that is true. Policies do have sublimits. A lot of people will just sign the piece of paper and say, okay, well, I've got insurance on my home now. Great, I'm covered for $300,000. And then so they think that they're set to that $300,000. What can take place too within a policy, both residential and both commercial, is those sublimits can, number one, act in your favor, or number two, act against you. For instance, your policy might have a sublimit category of electronics to be $2,500, but you have 3 MacBooks in your home that you know you spent $7,000 for. The insurance company will only obligated to pay you up to that $2,500. And then baseball card collections are a popular one. Cash is a popular one. So you just want to make sure that whatever your policy is, and that's where we come in. We have experts that know the policy. We know how to decipher it. We know that language in the policy is open for interpretation. So there's many, many good things that you can see within the policy. So I would recommend that you do. I think the insurance companies have something called a deck sheet that will tell you basically what those set limits are. Yes, ma'am.
So if you have a policy with a limit of, let's say, $3,000 on electronics,
Mhm.
you have $10,000 worth of electronics that were lost, how does that work with the depreciation? Do
They will just pay you a straight $3,000.
without the depreciation,
Well,
because it's so far exceeded?
they'll still put the depreciation in place because it's necessary too, because you need to know what that total loss is. But they'll only pay you up to what those limits are.
And I want to reiterate again that even if you are underinsured, as Allison said, the important thing is to document everything that was affected, and then you figure out where you're going to get
Yeah.
compensated. Because in your situation, you've got PG&E as a backup for amounts that you are not getting covered by your insurance.
Yeah, never stop just because you think that you have reached your policy limits. Never stop making the list just because you think you've got sublimits. You want to continue to document, continue to document. One of our funny things is that people will look at their inventory and they're like, oh my gosh, you even counted the paper clips and the Post-it notes. But the more you count, the more detailed it is, because when you go to make your replacement, the things that you might think are insignificant, you've just had to spend out of your pocket because you opted not to note it. Yes, sir.
Tax included in your inventory?
Taxes included, you bet. Today, definitely.
Yeah, and it's beneficial for tax purposes too.
Exactly.
That's even more important. Once you know, just because you've reached a sublimit or a limit, you've got to keep documenting until you get the paper clips, because it's beneficial from a tax.
Exactly, because you've suffered a loss, things that you've spent the money on, so you do want to document that loss. Yes, ma'am, did you have a question?
I had a question. You mentioned about when you provide a list to know when to do your content. Is that a final list, or can it be like an ongoing?
No, I've had clients that have submitted 3 different supplemental claims. One of the things is you don't want to wait until you've gotten those final paper clips, because like I said, you want to make sure that you get your money. You don't want to let it stay in the insurance company's hands. You want to put it in your hands as fast as you can. So you might find 2, 3 different supplements that you're filling out. And there's no right number, by the way, of how many items have to be on an inventory, how many items have to be in a supplemental claim. One of the things that I have typically found, and it doesn't work all the time, but on an average it does, whatever the square footage of your home is, I find that that's typically the line items you have in a claim too. Not quantity, but the different types of items you have throughout your house. Yes, ma'am.
One thing I would just like to say though, when you buy things to replace it and you have the receipts, when you get home, write down what it is you bought on the receipts, because I was going through my receipts to see what I replaced, and I couldn't always understand on the receipt what it was I was replacing.
Yeah, that is a very good valid point, because you'll get a receipt and it will say XLMJ329SH, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, what is that? I've got 20 of them, but you don't know where to apply it to. So very good point. At the top you want to write down not just shirt, but it might be Matthew's shirt, or it might be Caleb's shirt, or it might be Mike's uniform. So you do want to write down on there what you have, because with the replacement receipt process, the insurance company leaves you to do it. You can't give them a whole pile of receipts to do. And with our company, for instance, we have a whole replacement receipt process. We have an accordion folder that we give you. We have how to follow it, how to do it. We'll even sit down and work it with you. So yeah, that's a very nice point. Thank you for making that.
And just before we take that question over there, if you didn't pick one up at our table out there, you're welcome to take one. This would be a version if you're not working with a professional, or even if you are. This is a recovery organizer, and as you heard, from a professional say that keeping all your paperwork together is incredibly helpful, but hard during this time when you've got paper flying all over the place. But we've given you this clear sleeve. You can actually we designed it so you can stuff receipts right in there and keep them in there. And then we've got the pages for you to keep a diary and to keep track of the different parts of your claim. And then there's a business card holder that you can keep track of people that you're talking to. But David, you had a question?
So since we lost our home and we are living in a home that's fully furnished right now, so we're not going to be buying contents for a long time.
Correct.
So what is the time frame for this process? How long can we wait to get all our replacing our contents, and they cost more than the insurance gives us, and we're trying to put a supplemental claim in for more? What is the time frame? Our home might not be built for a year and a half or 2 years.
It really depends on what the policy states. Some policy states 12 months, some policy states 24 months to do it. My recommendation is do not wait on putting your contents claim together.
Well, putting the claim in, but then also not purchasing new items to replace them to show that the value is here, not, you know what I mean?
Right, so you still have the same time frame, whether it's 12 months or 24 months. It's just really knowing what's within your policy. I think with our situation here in San Bruno, I think there's going to be some leniency to where you're not held or bound to that 12-month or 24-month process.
Anyway, I can talk pretty loud. One of the things too, like I said, it does depend on the actual insurance policy itself, because for us, we're in the same thing. We did not actually go and replace a lot of things. However, for my policy, I did not have to go in and submit, okay, now I have this, now I have that. However, as a whole, we lost everything, so I am not, I have to go back and look to see did I really get absolutely everything out of the insurance company. Obviously, you want to get to the maximum that you can, but it does get to a point where I know for us, it was worthwhile that we just, okay, we're at a point, we've settled kind of back and forth. I've turned in supplemental information. They did not require us to actually submit receipts back once we purchased those items. So there's some of that money came in to replace things that we eventually just obviously didn't replace. There does get to a point in your life that sometimes you want to move on. But, like she said, and also you can use that little flash drive also, kind of the receipts thing. You could take, when you buy an item, you could shove that in there, make another column, purchased, here's what it costs. That way you're not trying to, that whole paperwork thing gets absolutely exhausting. So it kind of depends. But also, remember, as you are sitting in that home without anything, I kind of made the mistake of not buying really a whole lot of anything. So we moved in with pretty much nothing. It was like starting over yet again. So kind of breathe. Take time to, things that that you're going to, make that time to purchase some of those things that you're going to want no matter what. Yeah. Don't deprive yourself at this time because you want to still live.
Yeah, and another option that you do have is, let's just say, for instance, you have a $300,000 policy, and that's what your limits are. Your claim might come to $425,000. You might be able to make that negotiation to say, okay, I'm just going to take an actual cash value payment, and I'm going to be done with it. I don't want to have to do the replacement receipt process. So you do have that option. And Steve back here has a comment.
Yes, in San Bruno, all policies are 24 months. It's a state of disaster, and automatically the Department of Insurance raises all 12 months living expenses to 24 months. In answer to your question, you can submit your inventory list. They'll pay you the actual cash value. and then talk to the insurance company. You can come up with an agreement that the replacement is not going to be done until the building is completed. If you don't have a place to put it, they don't want to pay for storage.
Correct.
So you can work with them, and it may take 3 or 4 years before you replaced everything.
All right. I thank you all for coming here. One more question, I'm sorry.
Can you just quickly repeat what you said about depreciation costs and how they vary? My question is there some place where we can go find this information?
I printed it out for you.
Oh.
I printed out the law here, the insurance code for depreciation based upon condition. Condition is really subjective. So
Yes, but you were saying different categories of things,
Yeah.
they apply different.
I was talking about on
depreciation.
the insurance company side, the category of type should not affect the way that it should be depreciated here in the state of California, because it's just based solely on condition, nothing else, the condition of the item.
Okay.
Yes.
And I want to thank you so much for coming out, and Kay, and just mention a couple of quick points before I ask you to all. Sure. Yeah. I want to mention a couple quick concluding points, and then ask for everybody to go out in the hallway and maybe visit with the vendors until the next workshop. Take a nice deep breath, so we can get the room ready for the next workshop, which will be on construction and dealing with contractors. And just to touch on another answer, United Policyholders offers a free online claim help library. And we have tips that touch on almost every single item that you could think of, including everything that's come up today. And we have a depreciation guide. And a lot of our tips were written with input from people with the Greenspan Company and other professionals, as well as folks like Kay. So we have a whole, it is subjective, but there are some benchmarks we offer in our Depreciation Basics publication. And if you have trouble finding it, or our website, uphelp.org, uphelp.org. And I've been posting a lot of documents in the files section of the Glenview listserv. Uphelp, like uphelp.org. There it is, uphelp.org. Okay, and we will be talking in the third section on insurance negotiations. We'll touch a little bit on the big question: what happens if we have a fight over the value of an item, and I'm standing my ground and the insurance company is standing their ground? How do we break that impasse? And the bottom line there is your insurance company has a duty in this state to be reasonable. So there isn't a hard and fast rule, and a lot of it is negotiation. We'll be talking more about that in the third workshop, and thank you all.